Hey guys, Will with LV Performance. Today we're going to be doing some more work on our S40. Today what we're doing is working on the AC compressor clutch. They'll have problems with these on the S40s and the V50s and a couple of other Volvos, as well as some Hondas and Nissans and Mitsubishis that have the same manufacturer for the AC compressor. What happens is you can turn on the AC and everything will work just fine. When trying to travel at like highway or freeway speeds, the AC will disengage and it will fail to work until later on when it's cooled back down again. So you can sit there in the morning, turn it on, or at night before you've driven it, and it'll work just fine. You can sit there on idle, AC will be just fine. Take it out to drive it, and it'll start blowing hot again. What happens on these is when they're set factory, they're set at a very low tolerance. And basically after so many miles, a lot of these, back when they're under warranty, around 60,000 miles, they're having to swap out the compressors or the clutch setups because they would quit working. So on these, what you can do is actually take them apart, and there's an assortment of shims in there that they set for the factory. You have to get the correct shim placement on them, so not for the tolerance, sorry, to make it work properly without it being set too tight or set too loose. So once these start getting wore down on the clutch material, they are just far enough out that any type of serious engine load makes them slip, overheat, and disengage. So we're just going to take that apart, see how many shims are in this one, remove anywhere from 1 to 2 shims depending on how this one was set up, and we'll solve the issue of the AC disengaging. So you can see up in there, kind of tight. We can get to the AC clutch on these, just have it jacked up and the wheel turned out. A little more room. We got one bolt in the center, and then so we take that out. That holds the front clutch portion of it, but it's still pressed on there. So we have to take that out. So these 3 bolt holes right here, those are 5mm. So those we'll have our plate that goes on, those 3 5mm bolts. If you don't have a setup to pull this, you can rent the puller for the AC clutch from Autozone or Oreilly. It was like 120 bucks for it. But you do get that money back when you take back the kit, so really no actual money spent. So I'm going to pull this bolt out of here and we will go from there. Got our pull in there. We got our 3 5mm bolts. If you are renting a kit or whatever like that, just pay attention. So a lot of kits don't have the 5mm bolts for that. I think the ones they come with are like 6 and 8mm. So you may have to source those on your own. There we go. So I just put that screwdriver in there in between those 2 bolts, so in front of this one and behind that one, just to hold it steady. So I can turn this. That pop sound you heard was it breaking loose inside. As you can see, it's getting a good gap right there, so it is coming off. And there we go. Voila. You can see on here, any older clutch, you're going to see some wear on there. You see some kind of inconsistencies, and see it's kind of glazing on there. That's because it's been slipping. So we're going to clean this up a little bit. So on here, I'm going to clean up the surface of this one before I put it together. Roll lock disc. You don't have to use that. You could use some light sandpaper or some emery cloth just to knock that down a little bit, just to clean it up. So got that cleaned up. Just gonna hit this with some brake clean it out a little bit. So on ours, when we took it apart, there's these 2 small shims. They go right into there. And it's hard to see the difference, but there's a very, very thin one and one that's more than double the thickness of it. We're going to remove this one and leave just that thin one, and that should account for the amount of clutch material lost over time on it. I'm just going to put that back down in there. Make sure it's in there flat. This part you want to be careful with. I'm going to do some, hit a little bit to kind of seat it down in there a little better. You don't want to pound on that though. That's not what that's for. So you don't want to apply any excessive force to the shaft of the compressor on there, and that could ruin it as well. That's why you just want to get it in there as far as you can, and then you can seat it flush by tightening the bolt. You just want to make sure you can get a good few threads on there first. That way you make sure you don't strip the threads in the compressor shaft. And just remember that that bolt in there, you don't want to go super damn tight on that, because it's still a small bolt. That's only a 6mm bolt going into there, so you can snap that off. So really that was an extremely simple job to pull that outer portion of the clutch plate off, remove one of those thick shims, and then what we'll do now is we'll get it back down on the ground, turn on the AC, take it for a drive, get on a little bit, and see if it disengages or not, and we'll know if this fix did the job. So we got the car all back together. We took it out for about a 15-20 minute drive. It's not super hot outside right now. It's about 95 degrees. Had no issues. Stayed cold the whole time. Got on it a few times, brought it up to freeway speed, 80 plus. Just kidding. No issues with it at all. So that did the fix. Really no money spent. Like I said, if you're doing it yourself, if you don't have one, you can get the rental puller kit. I think it's around $120. If you rent it from like an Autozone or O'Reilly, you get your money back when you take it back. Only thing you'll have to add to that is you'll need 3 5mm bolts to run to the housing. You can see those in our video. Some washers would probably be helpful. Not really necessary though. Do that. It takes, once you get the car up, it takes less than 10 minutes to do it at that, and can save you a whole lot of money. So thanks for watching. Hope it helps.